Hey there, Eric Bancroft coming to you on behalf of the Clarity Crew with your 5 at 5. Listen, today I want to talk to you about something that Jesus wants to talk to his followers about. If you're watching this video with clarity, you're a subscriber of this channel, then I trust that you are a follower of Christ, and as Jesus speaks, so you want to listen. What I want to talk to you about today is what Jesus is talking about, buried right in the middle of the Sermon on the Mount, particularly in chapter 6, is this repeating theme he talks about. And it's the theme of why do you do what you do? I want to ask you that question right now. Why do you do what you do? And is your answer to that question different depending on who is present or absent? So Jesus talks about this in Matthew chapter 6, verse 1. He says, "Beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them." You see, Jesus is talking about not the problem of public righteousness. In fact, earlier in Matthew chapter 5, he talks about how people will see your good works and glorify your God, honor your God. Peter says himself in 1 Peter chapter 2 that evildoers will speak of our good works and glorify God on the day of visitation. So the problem that Jesus is talking about in Matthew chapter 6 is not the problem of public acts of righteousness. The problem Jesus is getting at is this phrase, in order to be seen by them. And Jesus goes on to talk about 3 specific examples. People who do their giving based on it being seen publicly, people who do their praying in order to be heard publicly, and people who do their fasting in order for their spirituality to be seen publicly. Now, friend, you and I could think of a lot more categories in which you and I would be tempted to be doing the right thing, but for the wrong reason. And the reason that Jesus talks about here is the reason that others would think of us as being righteous. So I want to challenge you today. What is motivating you in what you do? What's really exciting you? You know, it's interesting as we consider, for example, in Jesus' first area to consider, and that is the issue of giving to those who are in need. And they do that through the context of the synagogue. And that's even true today in our local churches. The leaders of our local churches are often more aware of the needs of people in the church than any of the people are themselves aware of everybody else's needs. And so a lot of times giving to the needy in the church happens through the giving to the church. And in our context here in the West, people's giving is often done anonymously. We don't post giving records. We're not putting it out in the lobby. We're not sending around in emails. But here's a question for you to consider, just by way of reflection and application. If your giving was to go public and people were to know what your giving was, would you change your giving? Would you increase it because of your embarrassment that people are seeing what you're not giving, what you are giving? If that's the answer, then friend, you're already by that indication showing that your motivation even then is for the wrong reasons, which is to do the right thing, but for the wrong people. I want to encourage you, no matter what area of your life that you are working out, make sure you're working it out for the Lord. I think sometimes it can happen even on social media is that people can post not pictures of their bodies, not pictures of their possessions, but sometimes even in Christian community, we can post pictures of our devotions, our Bibles, our coffee cups, ever so wonderfully placed. Now, by no means do I think that that is inherently wrong. Sometimes such examples can encourage people to be reading their Bibles, having time in the Word. But let me ask you this question. Why would you post such a post? You see, friends, whether it's the old school blowing of the trumpet as Jesus talks about with the issue of giving, or whether it's the challenge about praying publicly on the street corners as he talks about in Matthew 6, verses 5 through 8, or whether it's the issue of fasting and how one appears to be displaying their spirituality, or maybe it's just our own use of social media today. Friends, I want to encourage you to remember, a lot of what goes on between you and the Lord stays just right there. It's between you and the Lord. And that's exactly where it should be. Because so often then Jesus says that your Father who sees in secret will reward you. He says that specifically in verse 4. Again in verse 8. Again he says that in verse 18. How we then live accordingly. So that's my challenge to you today. Live for the Lord with great joy and with great anonymity. May that be an encouragement to you today. This is Eric Bancroft coming to you on behalf of the Clarity Crew. Have a great day.